Hello, my name's Gunnar May. I'm an agronomist with NRCS. I'm based out of here in Lubbock. I covered the Texas Panhandle, Southern High Plains, Western Rolling Plains, about 52 counties. And we were asked here to do the rainfall simulator because I know this year none of us have seen rain, so I thought I'd show y'all what it kind of looks like. But here we have a couple different cropping systems we have, except obviously this is not a cropping system. Some interesting things about these, they're all the same soil. They're all Amarillo fine sandy loam. They're all from Lamb County, and they're all within a quarter mile of each other. Some of these are within about 100 yards of each other. So they're all basically the same environment, the same climate, the same basically everything. And they're all of them are irrigated. There is a slight difference. These are pivot, and this has been row water for a long time. The idea is this is going to be going to drip, and then this is a corner. So some history about this tray right here, this has been no-till for about 8 years. It's had a rotation of cotton, corn, sunflower, and every single year they've grown a winter cover. There's some grazing has been done on this. This one is the southern part of this pivot. This has had the same rotation as this, 8 years no-till. This one had a summer cover planted last year, and it was grazed last year. You can see some manure there sitting and stuff like that. This was some recently picked up ground. So this only has about 3 years of no-till history. Corn, cotton, wheat for cover. This also has a summer cover that was grazed. So this is 8 years old, 3 years old. This has been conventional cotton forever. They recently purchased this land. It's had nothing but cotton on it. It's been row watered. This tray right here is from a listed bed, the very dead middle of it. It had a wheat cover in between the rows. Obviously, it wasn't very good this year, so that's what that is. This is cotton. And this is just good old blue grama, tried and true grass cover. This is from the corner. This has been in grass for about 20 years or so. And so what we're going to do here today is I'm going to show y'all a rainfall event. So kind of like what Barry said, rainfall here either comes in 2/10 or 2 inches. We don't really get anywhere between. I think I can count probably less than 5 times I've ever seen it rain slowly all day long. Now I've lived in all different types of places around this area. So most of the time our rain is very quick, very fast. And when it is very fast, a lot can happen. There's a lot of rainfall hitting the ground. And so kind of an interesting thing is, as we think about raindrops when we're standing here and we're getting rained on, we don't think much about it. But when it comes to an individual soil particle, it's a lot of force. Imagine you yourself standing out on the street and you get ran over by a bus that's traveling 20 miles per hour. The same thing is happening to these soil particles. When rainfall, a normal large diameter rainfall drop hits the ground, it's traveling around 20 to 30 miles per hour. Hail is even faster. Hail travels about 50 miles per hour. And when it hits that ground, it can actually displace this soil particles about 5 feet from where it lands. That's a lot of energy. Lots and lots of energy is taking place. And so it's important that we kind of dissipate that energy. And we're going to see kind of how these covers do that and how they dissipate energy and how they slow down overall flow. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run this for a little bit. We'll see how much it rains. Like I said, this is really, really quick rainfall event, which can happen. So I'm going to turn this sucker on. That's what it looks like right now, right? Every time the weatherman says it's going to rain, this is what they mean. Ooh. All right, so we're getting a little rainfall event. Like I said, it's pretty rapid, pretty quick. We're gonna let it run a little bit. We're gonna see what it shows up. So I'm going to stop it. And turn it off. All right. So let's see how much rainfall we got. It's got a little rain gauge right here. And we got about 1.4 inches. So pretty significant rainfall event within about 2 minutes. But rainfall can come very quick. I remember several times. I remember last year in May, I live in Earth, if you want to know where I live. I remember we got 6 inches one time in about 45 minutes. Unfortunately, we also got about tennis ball hail for about 30 minutes of that, and I got a new roof this last fall. But rainfall can come very quickly, and so we want to make sure we're protected. So let's kind of look what we got here. So like I said, this is our 8-year no-till. This kind of has an active growing crop. This wheat's going for grain. You'll actually see this tomorrow. Let's see what we got. Not much of anything, right? Let's go to our little bit older no-till, no active growing cover, a little bit of grazing activity. And we see we don't got much of anything. We go to our younger no-till, about 3 years old, a little bit less cover, a little bit less residue. Got a little bit of something, right? Just a little bit. Pretty significant to some degree, but we got something more. And then we go to our conventional tillage. Listed, soil structure is absolutely gone, and we got quite a bit. And fortunately, we got that. This is very productive soil. So when you see this kind of silkiness, sliminess like this isn't sand particles you're feeling. You're feeling silts, and you're feeling, more importantly, clay. What gives your soil's productivity is not necessarily the sand. It's not really the silt, it's your clay. Your clay is what hold nutrients. They're what help buffer your pH. They're what holds fertility. It's what makes it productive. You ever wonder why the Sahara Desert doesn't grow much of anything? Because there's just sand. There's no clay particles out there. There's no silt particles out there. There's nothing like that. It's not just because they just don't get a lot of moisture, but so do we. We don't get a lot of moisture either, but we can grow crops. And so then we see down here, our good old grass cover, we got just a little bit, just a little bit. Now understand this though, is that inherently, we are never gonna stop erosion from taking place. Erosion is a natural process. All the soil you see came from erosion. What's important is that we can control that erosion to a degree where it's not gonna be detrimental long term. If we had this happen every single time we got an inch fall rain, what's gonna happen to our most productive soil that lives on the top? It's just gonna wash away, right? There's a weird theory I have, is that the northeast part of our zone, when we had the Dust Bowl, is all that productive soil we used to have. We don't farm anymore. I always like to tell some of the producers I work with in Spearmint and Perryton, Follette area, I wonder how much more you could produce if we originally had our original A topsoil there. You know, like Burke was saying, all those I states do such a good job. That's because they stole our soil is what happened. By God. That's what happened. They got all their soils over there. You wonder why they're so productive. Because we had the good soil originally. And so we ask ourselves, why do we not see a lot of erosion taking place here? We see a little bit of erosion taking place here. We see a significant amount, and then we see just a little bit over there. Well, it's just like what Barry said. When that rainfall hits the ground, it's displacing all that soil. It's having direct impact. It's basically getting slammed. When over here, it's being intercepted by different roots, different residues, things like it's dissipating. Remember, a raindrop relative to soil particle is very, very large. It's very, very heavy. A raindrop relative to this stalk here, corn stalk, not very heavy, right? This corn stalk is significantly heavy. So it's able to dissipate that energy a lot more. So another thing that's important is something called overland flow. And so when you're raining, especially on slopes, you're starting to have this water sheet go across the field. And what's important is that we can slow that sheet down, because as that overland flow, that process gets faster and faster, it gains more energy and it's able to displace soil faster and faster and faster. But if we have residue on the surface, like we have see here, when that sheet rolls over the top, it slows down. This acts like little speed bumps. And when they act like speed bumps, they're allowed to have infiltration, which leads me to my next part. So before we start irrigating this essentially, or having a rainfall event, the soil is very light, it's very fluffy, right? When we list beds, we're throwing that soil, we're doing a horizontal mixing is what I call it. It's when we're throwing soil left to right. It destroys soil structure, but it's really fluffy, right? That's when we walk on a bed, we kind of sink down into the ground. So there's a lot of airspace, right? Macropores. Macropores are really important for infiltration. So y'all saw when we first started irrigating this or putting some water on it, we weren't really getting anything, right? Wasn't showing anything. That's because it was infiltrating. It was infiltrating into the soil. But as soon as this pore space collapsed, it couldn't infiltrate no more. At that point, all the macropores disappear, and all you have is really microscopic micropores, which aren't really not significant at this point. They don't really have much of a role when it comes to infiltration. Macropores are extremely important. And so this soil layer just collapsed. What used to be fluffy is now compacted within that first 2-3 centimeters. That water can't infiltrate as effectively. It obviously is not being slowed down by the residues on there, and so it starts going flying off and starts eroding. Over here in this case, this soil is heavier. It has a lot higher bulk density because it has a lot more soil structure. It doesn't collapse under pressure. A lot of times, really healthy soil has really good aggregate stability and a very good balance of macropores and micropores has a spongy feel to it. You kind of push and it'll kind of push back a little bit. That's important. That sponginess that you're feeling is those macropores and those micropores working together to give it stable aggregates or structural stability. And it's very important. I remember Dr. Burke, I don't know if he's here, he said something about aggregates usually don't melt when it rains. Well, they do melt a little bit for sure. Of course, this is going to be texture dependent. If you were to go up to where I originally started working at up in Hereford, we had Pullman clays. They were hard mollisol 2-to-1 smectitic clays. They really didn't break down like that when it rained on. But in Amarillo, it's going to weather a little bit because it has that sand in there. That's why he was talking about they remove the sand. It over influences aggregate stability, but it's something we still have to take care of for when we're in the field. And so over here we have a network of these channels, these macropores and micropores. It allows water to infiltrate significantly faster and allows this to hold more water as well. Over here, our porosity is gone within the first, 30 seconds. All that soil structure collapses. It's now formed what we call a platy soil structure, which is not what we want. We want granular or subblocky, which is what you see with these. And water has no place to go. It can only leave the field. And the same appears in wind erosion as well. Residue is extremely important when it comes to wind erosion because it stops something called detachment. Detachment is when the soil particle breaks loose from the actual soil surface itself and it goes bouncing around. There's 3 types of wind erosion. It's called soil creep, saltation, and suspension. Most soil erosion takes place in saltation. That means the soil particles are jumping around. Well, the soil particles are going to have a heck of a time jumping around with this much residue. Where over here, there's really nothing to stop it from moving on. So some of the same principles we see to reduce our water erosion is the same principles that work for reducing wind erosion, which is a significantly more cause, a bigger issue in our area by far. And then over here, obviously, this has probably excellent soil structure because it's never been disturbed. It probably is not even platy structure anymore. A lot of times when we go no-till, you'll still see a platy soil structure up on those upper 1 to 2 inches, even long-term no-till. It just takes a long time for you to get to a blockular, angular structure. This probably has an angular structure. That's probably why. Initially, we probably had a little bit of runoff. It's just going to happen, but eventually it's going to suck in all the water. If you got marginal land, plant the grass, graze cattle. It's a good market right now. I think grazing cattle is great no matter what when we have cropping systems just for the diversity of economics. But